Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture series on VLSI and microelectronics. It is a subject in 7th semester BTech ECE. The course code is EC702. I am Paulo Sridhar, Assistant Professor, Department of ECE, Guru Nanak Institute of Technology. As we all know that our institute is an autonomous institute under MACA UT, so our syllabus is specially designed with respect to the industry needs. So now let us look forward to the syllabus of VLSI and microelectronics. Our subject VLSI and microelectronics, it is having total number of lectures as 45 and the credit is 4 and the total contact hours is 3 lectures and 1 tutorial per week. Now before starting the syllabus of the VLSI and microelectronics, there are some prerequisites. What are the prerequisites? First one is concept of the course, solid state devices. The code is EC301. It is in 3rd semester. Next is analog electronic circuit, EC402, 4th semester. And another one is digital electronics and circuit, EC403, 4th semester. Now, before starting the VLSI and microelectronics, we need to know the basic concepts of the solid state devices subject, analog electronic circuits and the digital electronic circuits. Why they are needed? This has got a special mention because in solid state devices we start studying from the semiconductors, that is from p-type semiconductor, then n-type semiconductor, then p-n junctions, then the IV characteristics of diode. After diode we go to the transistors, that is the BJTs, FETs, etc. And also the input and the output characteristics of all the devices. All these are needed because in VLSI subject we will be going through the CMOS, that is the complementary metal oxide semiconductor, that is a type of the MOS device. So we need solid state devices. Next is the analog electronic circuit. In VLSI subject we are having analog VLSI, that is how we will be designing the amplifiers, then the switch capacitor. All these are there in the analog VLSI circuits. Now before studying the analog VLSI circuits we need to know the analog electronic circuits because all these other circuits are present in that subject. So we need to know all the circuitry of these analog electronic circuits. Next is the digital electronics and the circuit. Now in digital electronics we already know that there are many things like the combinational circuits and the sequential circuit. Now there will be some complex functions and we have to apply the complex function using some logic gates. Now here in VLSI we will be applying all the gates using the CMOS technology. Now how to apply, how to design them, all this we have to learn, and for learning all this we need to know the basics of the digital electronic circuits. Next we have to design the flip-flops, then the memory devices, all this using the CMOS. And for designing all this we know how the basic structures of the flip-flops are there, then resistors are there. All these things we will be studying in the digital electronic circuits. Now these were the requisites or the prerequisites of the VLSI and the microelectronics subject. As the subject is in 7th semester, these prerequisites we will be studying it in 3rd semester and 4th semester. That is basically we will be studying it in 2nd year. So after the prerequisites, let us start the course objectives. Now before starting of the course we need to know that there are some course objectives of the particular course we will be studying. Now the name of the course we are going to start is VLSI and the microelectronics, and the paper code is EC702. And what are the course objectives? The course objectives, first one is objective is EC702 is to motivate students to design VLSI circuits in the era of the digital and analog and all other circuits. Next is to encourage for the design of the ICs with low power and high speed. This is a very important thing. ICs, that is the integrated circuits, are mainly designed because for low power and high speed. These are the two very important things that we need. Now let us move to the next slide. In the next slide, we are going to start the course content and the syllabus for the VLSI and the microelectronics. Now, before that, we need to know some basic things about the VLSI and the microelectronics. That is why we are studying this subject. Now, complementary metal oxide semiconductor, that is the CMOS, digital integrated circuits, are the enabling technology for the modern information age. Because of their intrinsic features in the low power consumption, large noise margins, and ease of design, CMOS integrated circuits have been widely used to develop random access memory, that is the RAM chips, microprocessor chips, digital signal processor chips, that is the DSP chips, and the application specific integrated circuits, that is the ASIC chips. The popular use of CMOS circuits continues to grow with the increasing demands for low power, low noise in integrated electronic systems in the development of the portable computers, personal digital assistants, that is the PDAs, portable phones, and multimedia agents. Since the field of CMOS integrated circuits is very broad, it is conveniently divided into digital CMOS circuits and analog CMOS circuits. As I had already told you that in the prerequisites, we are studying about the analog electronic circuits and the digital electronic circuits. Why? Because there are two different branches in VLSI and microelectronics. That is, one is the digital CMOS circuits, another one is the analog VLSI circuits. That's why we need to know the basic electronic circuits first. After that only we can design them using the CMOS technology. Next is the brief analysis of the syllabus. Next is, there are 5 modules in our syllabus. What is the first module? Introduction to ICs. It consists of 8 lectures. Next is module 2, that is digital VLSI circuit design. It consists of 5 lectures and 8 tutorials. Next is module 3. It is analog VLSI circuit design. It consists of 10 lectures and 2 tutorials. Next is the 4th module, is the layout design rules and the fabrication steps of the ICs. It consists of 6 lectures and 2 tutorials. And module 5 is introduction to low power and high speed VLSI circuit design. It consists of 4 lectures. Now, before going to the next slide, that is the detailed analysis of the syllabus, let us know about the history of the subject. That is why the VLSI and microelectronics subject came into this field. Now, in the beginning of the 21st century, we find ourselves surrounded by different machines and appliances that are impossible to build without applying the principles of electronics into them. Moreover, the communication boom that we see now would not have been possible without the advancement in the electronics industry and without using ICs. So the main thing we need to know what that is ICs, that is the integrated circuits. ICs are simply the large circuits manufactured on a very small and simple semiconductor chip. Starting from the few transistors on a single chip in the early 1970s, it has increased to a billion transistors in a span of 40 years. Now you can see the increase of the number of transistors in a single chip. In a span of 40 years only, it has increased to billion transistors. The ever increasing demand of the humans has pushed the technology to integrate more and more components into a single chip. and it is expected that the trend will continue. That is, the number of transistors will go on increasing. The journey started when the first transistor was invented in 1947 at the Bell Telephone Labs. It was followed by the introduction of the bipolar junction transistor, that is a BJT, in 1949. Then it took 7 years to build a digital logic gate. In 1957, Harris first introduced the bipolar digital logic gate using the discrete components. The biggest revolution happened when Jack Kilby at Texas Instruments first made the monolithic integrated circuit in 1958. This was a significant breakthrough in the semiconductor technology, for which Kilby was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2000. The first commercial IC was introduced by Fairchild Corporation in 1960s, and it was followed by TTL IC in 1962. The ECL logic family has come up in 1974, which was another breakthrough in the IC technology. Now, another very important phase in the IC technology was the introduction of the first microprocessor, that is 4004 by Intel in 1972. Since then, there has been a steady progress in the IC industry, resulting in high density chips such as the Pentium processors. All of you are familiar with the Pentium processors. Now, the evolution of very large scale integration, that is the VLSI I am talking about, and our subject is based on VLSI. In the last half century is having major milestones. That is, first, what we can say, there was a single transistor, that is the level of integration was 1. Then it came monolithic ICs, then multifunctions, then complex functions, then medium scale integration, that is the MSI. What is the number of the transistor in MSI? 20 to 200. Then came the LSI, that is the large scale integration, that is 200 to 2000. Then came the VLSI, very large scale integration, that is 2000 to 20,000 and above. And here nowadays we are in a ultra large scale integration, that is ULSI. So to know ULSI, you need to know VLSI and why we are studying the VLSI. I hope after all these words, these are clear to all of you. Now, what is our main target? Our main target of ICs design and fabrication is to achieve more functionality at high speed using less power. These two are very important things, that is high speed and less power, less area and low cost. In the 1916s, Intel co-founder Jordan Moore had predicted that the number of devices on a single chip will double in every 18 months. Over the last 50 years, it has been found that the semiconductor industry has really followed the prediction of the Moore. And hence, it became a law, which is famously known as the Moore's law. Now, this Moore's law is a very important thing in VLSI and microelectronics subject. That is, the base depends on the Moore's law. In the 1916, you can imagine that in that days, Moore had already established a law, and our VLSI industry stands now also on this Moore's law only. That is, the number of transistors are going on increasing and increasing day by day. And it has increased in the last 40 years. Now, let us move to the detailed analysis of the syllabus. Now, this module 1 is Introduction to IC. It consists of 8 lectures. Now, the first part we will be studying here is integrated circuits, advantages, disadvantages, limitations. Already you know some of the advantages. Already I had told you what are the advantages. That is high speed but less power, less area and low cost. These are all the advantages of ICs. There are some disadvantages also which you will be studying in the later lectures. Next is the scale of the integration, that is SSI, small scale integration, then MSI, medium scale integration, LSI, that is large scale integration, and VLSI, very large scale integration, and the ULSI, that is ultra scale integration. All these are the number of the transistor in a single chip. Next is the Moore's law. Already I have told the Moore's law. Again, let me tell the Moore's law. That is, Jordan Moore had already predicted that the number of devices on a single chip, number of devices, or you can also tell number of transistors on a single chip, will double in every 18 months. This law has been followed till now. This law is the base of the VLSI subject. This is the Moore's law. Next is scaling of the MOSFET, constant field scaling and constant voltage scaling, and the short channel effects. Next is the VLSI design flow, that's the Y chart, IC classification, standard IC and ASIC, PAL, PLA, FPGA architecture. Now, let me tell you about the Y chart. It is a very important thing in VLSI. The design process at various levels is constantly evolutionary in nature. It starts with a given set of requirements. Initial design is developed and tested against the requirements. When requirements are not met, the design has to be improved. If such improvement is either not possible or too costly, then what we are doing, a revision of the requirements and an impact analysis will be considered. Now this Y chart is a simplified design flow for most logic chips using design activities on 3 different axes, which resembles the letter Y. So it is called as a Y chart. Now the next module we will be studying is digital VLSI circuit design. This is a very important topic, as I had already told you that the prerequisite in VLSI subject is digital electronic circuits. There, that subject is needed for this module, because here we will be studying various digital circuits, but that will be applied using the CMOS inverter. So here first we will be studying the inverter characteristics, then the resistive load inverter, that is the voltage transfer characteristics, that is the VTC curves, significance of the parameters VIL, VIH, VOL, VOH, and the VTS, that is the threshold voltage. And next comes the CMOS inverter. This CMOS inverter is a very important thing in VLSI subject, because whole of the VLSI subjects depends on this CMOS inverter, and you need to know all the important properties and the characteristics and all, how to design the CMOS inverter, all these things. And all these things that will be clear in this module. That is CMOS inverter. We will be studying the VTC, noise margin, and aspect ratio of the symmetric CMOS inverter. Next is the combination logic circuit design. Circuit design using the static CMOS style, that is the basic gates. Design of the circuits for SOP and the POS expressions, that is the product of sum and the sum of product expression, complex logic circuits and full adder. Circuit design using pseudo NMOS logic, DC VCL logic, TG logic, pass transistor logics, complementary pass transistor logic, and dynamic logic, then the domino logic and the nodal logic. Now what happens? The combinational logic circuits or gates which performs the Boolean operations on multiple input variables and determine the outputs as Boolean functions of the inputs are the basic building blocks of all digital systems. That's why I was telling you that knowing digital electronic circuits is a must in the case of the VLSI subject. Here in this module, that is in module 2, we will examine the static and the dynamic characteristics of various combinational MOS logic circuits. It will be seen that many of the basic principles used in this design and analysis are already applied in the combination logic circuits. The first major class of the combination logic circuits is the NMOS depletion load gates. Now, NMOS depletion load circuits has to emphasis on the load concept. We will use two input NAND and NOR gates and then expand our analysis to the more cases of multiple input circuit structures. Next, we will see the similarities and the differences between the NMOS depletion load logic and the CMOS logic circuits, and also the advantages of the CMOS gates with examples. Next, the design of the complex logic gates, which allows the realization of the complex Boolean functions of the multiple variables. And also in the last section, we will see the CMOS transmission gates and how to design the PG logic gates or the logic circuits, and also the domino logic, nodal logic. All these are very important and are also used in the designing of the different ICs. Next is the sequential circuits and the semiconductor memory design. Bistable circuits, design of the CMOS SR and the JK latch, CMOS clocked SR and the JK latch, master slave JK flip-flop, CMOS D flip-flop, 6 transistor SRAM cell and 3 transistor DRAM cell design. Again, to design all of these sequential circuits, we need to know the sequential circuit design in the case of the digital electronics. After that only we can design all the latches and also the memory cells. Next is module 3, that is the analog VLSI circuit design. Here there are 12 lectures, that is 10 lectures and 2 tutorials. So first one is the small signal model of the MOSFET. Second is analog sub-circuit MOS switch, that is how MOS can be used as switch. That is also very important. Next is active resistors, MOS diodes, current source and sink, current mirror, current and voltage references, voltage divider, MOS equivalent of PN junction voltage reference, threshold voltage reference, band gap reference. Now this was the starting of module 3. Now moving to the next slide, we are having subtopic is switch capacitor circuit. In the case of switch capacitor circuit, we will be studying about the resistance emulation of the series and the parallel and series parallel circuits, switch capacitor integrators and the filters. Next is the CMOS differential amplifiers, design parameters and the output amplifiers, and the two-stage CMOS op-amp design. Now we need to know the differences between the integrated and the discrete analog circuit designs. Now let us see this one. The differences between the integrated and the discrete analog circuit design are important. Unlike integrated circuits, digital circuits use active and the passive components that are not on the same substrate. A major benefit of the components sharing the same substrate in close proximity is that the component matching can be used as a tool for design. Another difference between the two design methods is that the geometry of the active devices and the passive components in integrated circuit design are under the control of the designer. This control over the geometry gives the designer a new degree of freedom in the design process. A second difference is due to the fact that it is impractical to breadboard the integrated circuit design. Consequently, the designer must turn to computer simulation methods to confirm the designer's performance. Another difference between the integrated and the discrete analog design is that the integrated circuit design is restricted to a more limited class of the components that are compatible with the technology being used. Now, the task of designing an analog integrated circuits includes many steps. Now, we will see the major steps in the design process. First one is the definition. Second one is the synthesis or implementation. Third one is the simulation or modeling. Fourth one is the geometrical description. And fifth is including the parasitic components. That is the geometrical parasitic components in simulation. Sixth one is the fabrication, and seventh is the testing and the verification. Now, the designer is responsible for all of these steps except the fabrication. The first steps are to define and synthesize the function. These steps are crucial since they determine the performance capability of the design. When the steps are completed, the designer must be able to confirm the design before it is fabricated. The next step is to simulate the circuit to predict the performance of the circuit. The designer makes some approximation about the physical definition of the circuit initially. Later, the layout is complete. That is, when the layout will be complete, simulations are checked using the parasitic information derived from the layout. At that point, the designer may include using the simulation results to improve the circuit's performance. Once satisfied with the performance, the designer can address to the next step. That is the geometrical description layout of the circuit. This geometrical description typically consists of a computer database of variously shaped rectangles or polygons in the XY plane at different levels. The different levels will be in Z direction. It is intimately connected with the electrical performance of the circuit. As already we have stated that once the layout is finished, it is necessary to include the geometrical effects in additional simulations. If the results are satisfactory, the circuit is ready for fabrication. After fabrication, the designer is faced with the last step, that is determining whether the fabricated circuit meets the designer specification. If the designer has not carefully considered this step in the overall design process, it may be very difficult to test the circuit and determine whether or not specifications has been met. As already we have mentioned that one distinction between the discrete and the analog and the integrated analog circuits design is that it may be impractical to breadboard the integrated circuit. Computer simulation techniques has been developed that has several advantages provided the models are adequate. What are the advantages? That also we need to know. The advantages includes the elimination of the need for breadboards. Second is ability to monitor signals at any point in the circuit. Third one is the ability to open a feedback loop. Fourth one is the ability to easily modify the circuit, and fifth one is the ability to analyze the circuit at different processes and temperatures. Now, there are some disadvantages of the computer aided simulation. What are the disadvantages? First one is the accuracy of the models. Second is the failure of the simulation methods to converge to a solution. Third is the time required to perform simulations of the large circuits. And fourth one is the use of the computer as a substitute for thinking. Now, this was in short the module 3 and the things we will be studying. Now, let us go to module 4. Now, module 4 is the design rules and the fabrication steps of the ICs. It consists of 6 lectures and 2 tutorials. That is in total 8 lectures. Now, here the subtopics are micron and the lambda design rules. Next is the stick diagram and the layout. Here in the layout, we will be designing the CMOS inverter, NAND and the NOR gates. These are very important for your semester exams also. Next is the fabrication steps of the ICs. Wafer preparations, oxidation, photolithography, etching, diffusion, ion implantation, metallization and packaging. All these methods are very important. And also the differences between ion implantation and diffusion also, these are very important. Next is CMOS N-well process, overview of the P-well and the twin tub process. Now, before moving to module 5, let us have a quick introduction to the IC technology. VLSI technology has been the enabler for the advancement of the present electronics and the communication age. Silicon has a natural choice of the material for the IC manufacturing. Why? Because of its abundance in the nature, and more importantly, its native oxide, which is most suitable for the IC fabrication. That is the silicon dioxide. It is a very important oxide that is suitable for the IC fabrication. Almost 90% of the electronic circuits fabricated worldwide are being made with the silicon using the CMOS technology. CMOS technology is the most popular technology because of its low power and less requirement. Now we will be describing the IC manufacturing process in short. First, the single crystal silicon ingot is grown, which is sliced to obtain wafers. The wafers are the substrate of the IC chip. Now on the wafer, the devices and the interconnections are patterned using the lithography technique. So now what is lithography? Lithography is nothing but writing in stone. So it is giving the pattern on the wafer. A processed wafer contains several identical ICs called a die. The processed wafer is then tested to include faulty circuits. The dies are separated from the wafer and each die is bonded and packaged to form IC chips. These chips are tested to sort out the faulty ones from the manufactured chips, and then the good chips are shipped to the customer site. The IC is patterned on the wafer using the photolithography techniques, which is a combination of several process steps, namely oxidation, coating of the photoresist, exposure to UV light, etching, diffusion, ion implantation, and film deposition and metallization. We will be studying all these processes in the later lectures. Now, the major advantages of the ICs over the discrete component-based circuits are smaller physical size, higher speed, low power consumption, and the reduced cost. Now, let us move to the next module. That is the last module, also which is the low power and high speed VLSI circuit design. It consists of 4 lectures. Now here we will be studying about the dynamic power and short circuit power and the leakage power in the CMOS inverters. Next is the timing parameters, critical path, arrival time, slack, and the skew setup time and the hold time. Next is the gate delay and the path delay, gate time, and expression of the CMOS inverter, and the adiabatic logic. Now, before this, we need to know why we need low power CMOS logic circuits. Let us have a quick look. The increasing prominence of the portable systems and the need to limit power consumption in a very high density VLSI chips have led to rapid and the innovative developments in low power design during the recent years. The driving force behind these developments are the portable device applications requiring low power dissipation, high throughput, such as the notebook, computers, portable communication devices, and the personal digital assistants. In most of these cases, the requirement for low power consumption must be met along with equally demanding goals of high chip density and high throughput. Hence, low power design of the digital integrated circuits has emerged as a very active and rapidly developing field. The limited battery lifetime typically imposes very strict demands on the overall power consumption of the portable systems. Although new rechargeable battery types such as nickel metal hydride has been developed with higher energy capacity than that of the conventional nickel cadmium batteries, revolutionary increase in the energy capacity is not expected in the near future. The energy density is about 30 watt per lb, which is still low in view of the expanding applications of the portable systems. Therefore, reducing the power dissipation of the integrated circuits through design improvement is a major challenge in the portable system designs. The need for the low power design is also becoming a major issue in high performance digital systems such as the microprocessors, digital signal processors and other applications. The common traits of the high performance chips are the high integration density and the high clock frequency. The power dissipation of the chip and thus the temperature increases with the increasing clock frequency. Since the dissipated heat must be removed effectively to keep the chip temperature at an acceptable level, the cost of packaging, cooling and heat removal becomes a significant factors in these circuits. The methods that are being used to achieve low power consumption in digital systems span a wide range from device to process level to algorithm levels. Device characteristics such as the threshold voltages, device geometrics, and the interconnect properties are significant factors in lowering the power consumption. Circuit level measures such as the proper use of circuit design styles, reduction of the voltage swing, and clock strategy can be used to reduce power dissipation at the transistor level. Architecture level measures include smart power management of various system blocks, utilization of the pipelining, and the parallel design of bus structure. Finally, the power consumption by the system can be reduced by the proper selection of the data processing algorithms, specifically to minimize the number of the switching events for a given task. Here in this module 5, we will primarily concentrate on the circuit or the transistor level design measures which can be applied to reduce the power dissipation of the digital integrated circuits. Various sources of the power consumption will be discussed and the design strategies will be included to reduce the power dissipation. The concept of the adiabatic logic will be also examined since it emerges as an effective means for reducing the power consumption. This was in short that we will be studying in module 5. Now, these are the books that we will be following. First one is the Digital Integrated Circuit by Chandrasekharan. Next is the CMOS Digital Circuits by Kang. Next is CMOS Analog Digital Circuits by Allen and Holberg. Next is the Design of the Analog CMOS Integrated Circuits by Razavi. Next are the references books. First one is the Microelectronic Circuits by Cedra and Smith. Second is the Introduction to VLSI Circuits and Systems. It is a Wheely publication book. Next is the VLSI Design by Debaprasad Das. Next is the VLSI Design EDA Tools by Anshuman Sarkar, Swapnadeep De and CK Sarkar. Next is the VLSI Design Techniques for Digital and Analog Circuits by Geiger Allen. It is a TMH publication book. Next, these are the course outcomes. Now, the first course outcome, that is CO1, in case of this subject, the code is EC702. So, the course outcome is given as EC702.CO1 is able to describe scale of integration, that is SSI, MSI, LSI, VLSI, and the Moore's law, scaling, short channel effect, VLSI design flow, FPGA architecture and construct, gate level circuit with PAL and PLA concept. Next one is course outcome 2, that is CO2, that is able to analyze CMOS inverter voltage transfer characteristics with the parameters VIL, VIH, VOL, VOH, VTH, and based on the knowledge of the digital circuit design methodology like CMOS, pass transistor, TG, that is the, and DCVSL, dynamic logic NORA, able to construct schematic of the combinational sequential circuit, SRAM, DRAM cell using. Next is the CO3 and CO4, and there are in total 6 course outcomes. So the CO3 is able to describe fabrication steps of the ICs and construct stick diagram and layout of the CMOS inverter and basic gates based on the lambda and the micron design rules. CO4 is able to calculate gate delay, dynamic power, short circuit power and leakage power and total power consumption across the CMOS inverter circuit based on the derived expression of the delay and power. Next are CO5 and CO6. So CO5 is based on the fundamental concept of the MOSFET characteristics and the model, able to calculate the value of the resistance of the current source, MOS diode, current of the current mirror circuit, voltage of references such as the voltage divider, threshold voltage and the band gap, emulate resistance of switch capacitor circuit, gain of the switch capacitor integrator and first order switch capacitor filter. The last course outcome is CO6, that is able to analyze CMOS inverter voltage transfer characteristics with the parameters VIL, VIH, VOL, VOH, VTH and based on the knowledge of the digital circuit design methodology like the CMOS, pass transistor, TG, DCVSL, dynamic logic, NODA, able to construct schematic of the combinational sequential circuit, SRAM, DRAM cell using the MOSFET. So all these were the 6 course outcome of this subject, VLSI and microelectronics, where the code is EC702. So I'm very thankful to all of you for sparing the time and listening to our lecture series. Thank you and hope to meet you soon. Thank you all.